Okay, we're recording.
All
So should we start, I guess, with the Pledge of Allegiance?
Okay.
Are we gonna try to get the flag up again, or just gonna hold the little one?
Oh, yeah.
More importantly, I figured out how to take it down.
All right. All right. Here we go. I pledge allegiance
To the
flag, the United
United
States
States of
America.
America.
and
And
to
to
the
the
republic
republic for which it stands,
and
one nation,
under God,
God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with
with
liberty
liberty
and
and justice for all.
for all.
Ed, you got this down to a science.
Yeah.
No lingering flag.
Oh, it took me 2 months.
That's success. All right. Moving on to public comment. It doesn't look like we have any
That's good.
comment.
We have to do roll call.
Did you? Oh, we have to do roll call. Okay, sorry.
That's okay. Jane Flanagan,
Here.
Felix Raimondo,
Present.
Kyle Elliott,
Here.
Carol Smith, and Janine Riley.
All right. Okay, so moving on, like I said, public comment. Does not look like we have any members of the public here tonight, unless someone's in the waiting room that I'm not aware of. Are we good on that? Okay. So no public comment. And then moving on to invited guests. We don't have any invited guests tonight. So that is also one we're able to move quickly through. Then we move on to the approval of the minutes from the last meeting. Does anyone have any questions, comments about the March meeting minutes? Oh, go ahead, Carol.
Yeah, I just wanted to say I like the updated minutes. There's a little more detail now included, so I just wanted to say I appreciated that. I think they're much better.
I agree. All right. If there are no other questions, would anyone like to make a motion to approve the meeting minutes from March 23rd, 2021?
I'll make a motion to approve the meeting minutes.
I'll second it.
Oh, you're muted, Shannon.
Flanagan,
I'm sorry.
Yes.
Felix Raimondo,
Yes.
Kyle Elliott,
Yes.
Carol Smith. Carol, you're muted.
Yes.
Janine Riley.
Yes. It's like an epidemic today, the muting.
I have somebody waiting to join the room all of a sudden. Mr. Where'd it go? I believe his name was Scott Langstein.
Oh.
Oh.
Yep.
I'm going to
From the grant.
Yep. Should we go back and allow him to comment? Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Welcome.
Hi, Scott.
Hi.
Okay. We kind of already went past public comment, but we were going to go back for you, and I think I know your question is about the prepayment discount. Can I guess? Am I right?
Yes and no. I mean, I was just here more or less to listen to see what was going on. So
Okay.
I didn't really have an agenda.
Okay. All right. Well, I guess then would you like me to just continue? I mean,
Yes. Yeah. If that hasn't been resolved, then yeah, please continue.
No, and honestly, Scott, not to but I guess the issue is going to be with this new, we're moving forward, and we're still in the beginning stages, but we're moving forward with the memorandum of understanding with the borough. And I really don't know how things will change and what will change given that. And, I guess I'll be rather candid. I mean, that I'm kind of a holdout on the prepayment discount,
Right.
but I don't know. I don't know if we're gonna if that's gonna continue to be even a possibility once things move. So I just want to give you the heads up on that. I mean, no one's discussed that. That's Janine Riley's completely personal opinion. That is not a board thing, but I just wanted to give you the kind of knowledge. Like, I don't know what everything's going to look like as we move forward with the prepayment discount. So that's kind of just an aside.
Sure. I appreciate that. No problem.
Okay. All right. Okay, then moving forward, we're moving on to the financial report. Does anyone have any questions about the financial report?
I do.
Okay.
I do.
Yep, go ahead, Carol.
I just wanted to make sure my microphone was working. I just have a question about the Alltech, what that monthly charge covers. I think Shannon can delineate that. And I guess the thing I had the biggest question for this month was the catapult.
Yeah, I had
That's not
the
a
same
that's
question.
not a usual monthly charge, is it? And I was wondering what we had done by catapult. So those are my two questions. Thank you.
Okay, so Catapult is our website. They are the ones that host the website. That is a yearly fee, not a monthly fee.
Monthly
And-
on the bill. So if you could just clarify that, that makes more sense. I thought the 2,400 was excessive for a month. And I think Kyle
Absolutely.
had the same question, he said. So thanks, Shannon.
Yep, and Alltech is our copier. So that includes the maintenance, and it also includes like our ink for the copier.
So is that an act that I think I ask
that's
you this all
monthly.
the time because that's a lot. But I guess
Yeah,
that's I have a home printer and I know how much the ink for that little home printer is. So all right, thank you, Shannon.
welcome.
Any other questions on the financial report?
Janine?
Mhm.
Do you mind? Can I jump
No,
in
I know.
here?
I was going to say, if there were no other questions, I know you wanted to comment. So
Okay, thanks. I want to bring to the authorities' attention recent developments in our connection fee account. Let's say the account is trending upward as of late. We just received 1.6 million from the Matson Mill apartment development. There were 292 units. We currently stand at around 4.3 million in your connection fee account. That is much different than where you were at the end of last year when you were working on the 2021 operating budget and capital budgets. In addition, it is likely that in the not too distant future, we'll be receiving considerably more. Now, I included in my report a connection fee analysis that Shannon prepared. I don't know if you received that or not. It was in the Dropbox, and I just sent it directly to you folks a few moments ago. There's two developments I want to turn your attention to. The first is 401 Washington. It's labeled 401 to 33 Washington Street. We just received from the engineers of the project a capacity letter request. The development could be as much as 600 apartment units. Now, I want to be clear at this point, they're doing their due diligence. There's not a land development plan application that's has been filed with the borough. That this particular project, I understand, has been talked about for a number of years, but for what it's worth at this point in time, there's clearly some interest, new interest in it. I understand there are more than a few issues that need to be, more than a few hoops that need to be jumped through. So that's something for the authority to keep their eye on. The second is West Elm Corson Street. In that case, we're looking at about 350-ish apartment units. Now, that project does have a land development plan filed with the borough. So that, I would assume, will begin to work its way through the planning commissions, perhaps zoning if that's necessary, and then ultimately the council. It's a process that could take 6 to 9 months, but if they get to the finish line, and if it's approved, that could mean another $2 million to our connection fee account. So backing up a little, we have 4.3 million in the bank, so to speak, right now, with a decent chance that in the not too distant future, we could see another 2 million, maybe by the end of the year or early next year. But again, that's speculative, but I want to throw that out there. So that's positive news. And it certainly is important when we consider our capital program and what we're able to accomplish over the next maybe 3-4 years. Now, because of the additional monies, we discussed this at our last finance committee meeting. What I'll be doing is trying to be a bit more aggressive with our investing. Currently with our bank, I believe we're receiving, correct me if I'm wrong, Shannon, somewhere in the neighborhood of 0.10%. I've already started conversations with folks to see if we can't get something better than that. We will be able to. If we go out longer term, 3 months, 9 months, a year, which we may be able to, it may be even longer, but it's not going to be that much different. Maybe we'll be a 0.3, maybe 0.4, maybe a little bit more. We'll see. But I'll report back to the board at our next board meeting with more information, and we can go from there. If you have any questions.
Terry, I got a question. Are we still owed money from Soro West?
That I'm not certain. I believe we received 340,000 in 2020. Was there any more, Shannon,
Yes,
that you're aware of?
we should be expecting another payment from them because we delayed one of their payments. Is that correct?
I think that 300,000 was their last payment, but I will double check and confirm it and I'll send you an email. Because I'm not positive. I think that was their last one because we had 2 payments from them already.
And how about for the hotel?
I think that was the hotel that was
Nah.
300.
Fred, do you remember?
I do think they made both payments. And it was
Yeah.
right at the end of 2020. They paid for just Sora West, the office, initially. And then when they went to closing at the end of the year, we had a push, and that included they got the reduction in the tapping fee.
Mhm.
Because they reduced the number of rooms in the hotel, they reduced the size of the restaurant and the office space. So I do think we actually got paid from them, because I was nervous about that as well. But I do believe that they made their second payment.
That's as I remember it too, Fred.
Yeah, because they went to closing at the end of the year before they sold it to the other firm.
I think the only issue that we've had Sora West is that manhole on Elm that needs to be fixed on their punch list, and that was around
that was-
12. Has that
That
been
was done
done?
as well.
Oh,
That was
cool.
done as
All
well.
right, great.
They didn't tell us. They just went out and did it, but the end result is it's done.
Well, if you get a chance, folks, please look at that connection fee analysis that Shannon prepared that you have and see if we've forgotten something or if you have any further questions.
I just had a question, Terry, in terms
Yeah.
of what is our debt at this point in relation to our capital. And just to remind folks that we still have some issues coming up in terms of getting the centrifuge and some of the other capital projects. So I just wonder, in terms of balance, where does it stand with our current debt?
Well, you have about 10 million in outstanding debt at this time, give or take, but 10 million is a fair number. That at some point in the not too distant future, we probably want to take a look at that to see if it's a number that's worthwhile refinancing. I've been hearing the market, the municipal bond market, and just the market in general is kind of wacky as of late, but it's certainly a conversation worth having with the banking folks and the others at some point. When we look at what we have now, Carol, in our connection fee account, and if we dedicate that to capital improvements, which of course we will, that have to do with the plant, you're in a good position of financing your, I'm going to stick my neck out and say all your capital improvements that you've identified over the next at least 3 years, maybe 4 years. So that's something, again, that's just a general statement. Okay. I'll be drilling down into that and report back to you here as time goes on. We get that extra 2 million, you're going to be in very good shape.
Okay. Any other question? Well, I guess let's go back to the bills, because I don't think we actually, Shannon, we didn't pay the bills, correct? All right, so we have to pay the bills. Do I hear a motion to pay bills in the amount of $93,019.74?
I'll make a motion to pay the bills.
I'll second it.
Jane Flanagan. Felix Ramundo.
Yes.
Kyle Elliott.
Yes.
Carol Smith.
Yes.
Janine Riley.
Yes. All right, the motion passes. So moving on to the financial report in general, does anyone have any additional questions on the financial report? And if not, do I hear a motion to accept the financial report?
I have one question on the budget.
Sure.
On computer expenses that we've already spent 112%. Did we have a computer crash, or is that maintenance, or?
We had to update the computer systems during COVID, especially to get Shannon's
Okay.
system. I think we reported on that, Shannon, that you did for your home system, for Terry's system, because Terry's new this year, and for upgrading Ed's.
Okay, great. Okay, that's great. Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, then would anyone like to make a motion to accept the financial report?
The motion to accept the financial report.
I'll second it.
Jane Flanagan,
Yes.
Felix Raimondo,
Yes.
Kyle Elliott,
Yes.
Carol Smith,
Yes.
Janine Riley.
Also, yes. All right. Moving on to the solicitor's report.
Good evening, everyone. Only one action item this evening, although there are a couple of things for discussion. And I have one update from our report. We had the court hearing today on 126B West 8th Avenue, and I'd be able to update you on that. And then obviously the discussion item is as it relates to the Coel Lane easements. Last month, we've been working with Terry on a couple of different issues related to something that Terry already talked about. We've worked on the some budgeting issues and some of the projects that are going on within the borough. The one action item we have for you this evening is a request from 51 Washington Street to accept dedication of the sanitary sewer facilities prior to the final paving of Washington Street. We normally do not accept our facilities until paving is done. But the request is being made by the applicant, and I'm sure that Fred can fill you in on some more of the details, is because of the way the schedule is and because of the way their timetable is down there, they're not going to be completing the paving for about another 14 to 16 months. So we would not be taking dedication until that time. They are, my understanding is they do have all of the facilities already. They've been inspected and they're ready to take dedication of, but we normally wouldn't do it because of the paving. And if Fred, there's anything you want to add, please do to give a little bit more background.
No, you're exactly right. The only extenuating circumstance that's here, and I still don't believe that I would recommend dedication right now, is that the 51 Washington extends over to the Matson Mill apartment complex, and they can't flow through a private sewer. So that would be the only extenuating circumstances, is that if Matson Mill extends it and what needs to connect it to use it for anything, that they need to use it for lawfully, that at that point we would probably have to take dedication. The developer did offer 18 to 24 months. I don't recommend accepting it, at this time, but quite honestly, if there is a need to connect someone else in there, that's the exception to every rule. When someone else needs to have it, you extend that. They would be eligible for a escrow release, down to 15%. But this is a policy of the board, really, to go out there. The only accepting dedication now, it starts the clock on the maintenance period, and the manholes are subject to damage from all the construction traffic going over it. And also all the additional construction traffic going over it, could have the potential for additional sags to be generated, because it's not meant, normal sewers don't have that level of construction. And it's also construction traffic, I believe, that is going back to the Matson Mill project as well as going over it. So that would be my two concerns, is damage to the manholes. And then because, just additional settlement and sags that could occur in there. With that being said, if Matson Mill needs to use it, I don't think I guess they could leave an agreement on that. Normally, you don't allow someone else to tie into the main until we've accepted dedication in the first part, but I'll turn it back unless Mike has any additional comments on this.
No, I just, as I said, it's just been, it was a request by the developer. You're under no obligation to grant this request. Our rules are pretty clear with respect to how we handle these matters. So if you want to deny this request and not take dedication, you can. And I think the one point that Fred made is a good point. You know, if the circumstances change down the road and somebody needs to connect to this line, and we can revisit it, but there's no obligation to grant this request.
I mean, I guess,
So,
I would say my feeling is if it's not recommended, Fred, by you as our professional, and we could reconsider it at the point in time when it becomes, maybe more ripe, I guess is the appropriate term. I guess I'm inclined to then not accept dedication at this point in time. However, I'm open to suggestions or other comments.
I would agree with Janine because of what Fred said, that there's the potential for damage to the manhole covers and also to sagging, and that would be in our limited warranty period, right? They have to fix it if it happens within so many months. Is that how that works?
Yeah, yeah, and it would start the clock on that, and then they would issue whether or not that's a maintenance issue,
Right.
or somebody else caused it. We have a bigger
Right.
hammer until we accept dedication,
Okay.
on that.
Yeah,
And they
fine.
can get majority of their money back too, through an escrow release. They have to request.
Fred, I had a question in regards to, you got 51 Washington Street, and then upstream from them is the other project.
Matson Mill, correct.
Now, if Matson Mill finishes before 51, does Matson, they can't gain access to the sewer because that section hasn't been dedicated to us?
Yeah, they can't use it. They can extend it up to their property, but I would not recommend allowing them to use it because it's flowing through a pipe that we don't own. So at that point, we'd have to definitely reconsider and take dedication when they want to utilize it.
What if 51 doesn't want to offer, if we don't act on it now, can 51 remove their offer? And then are we stuck waiting on them to give us dedication?
That's a legal question, which I'll leave Mike answer, but I do know that there's a cooperative agreement between the two of them and a cost sharing agreement. And I believe our developers agreement probably addresses it, but I'll leave Michael, properly respond.
no, I think what you'd be looking at that point in time is that's when 51 would probably come back to you and ask you to take dedication at that point in time, because they would maybe have a little bit more leverage with you at that point in time. But we don't have to take dedication of what 51 has done. So if Matson Mill is ready to start discharging, but we don't have dedication of the sewer, we don't have any responsibility. We don't have any liability, I should say.
Does Matson Ford have any recourse if 51 doesn't want to turn over dedication?
Not against us, they don't. Now Fred is indicating something that they have a cooperative agreement with each other, so there might be something in there that they can enforce, but they can't enforce it against us. So
I just have a concern. I agree with you, Fred, that taking dedication now would not be wise, considering 51 last month was dumping something into our sewer system. I'm not ready to take dedication in the middle of a construction project. But I don't want to be held hostage by 51 if Matson Ford is ready to start their property up for some reason, well before 51 is ready to give us dedication. Do we have any recourse? Is my question.
any recourse in what regard?
To force a dedication?
Is it possible to do a continuing offer of dedication that while we're not inclined to take it now, that we could change it at any time. I know that on the developer side, I have offered that to townships, a continuing offer of dedication, that whenever they deemed appropriate, they had the ability to accept dedication, but not the obligation up until final paving. That may have been extenuating circumstances where I did that, but I don't know if that's an option here or not, or something that the board would even want to consider.
Well, as a practical matter, the minute we tell 51 Washington we're going to take dedication, they'll run the documents over to the authority.
Hold money.
Yeah.
Yeah, but hold money.
But that's,
They want that clock to start running.
I understand.
Secondly,
That's not what we're looking for.
well, that's exactly what you're looking for.
No, I don't want to take
What-
dedication, but I also don't want to be held hostage either. If
Okay.
Matson Ford's
Well,
ready to go.
Yeah, well, you can't have it both ways. You either have to take dedication, or nobody's going to be able to hold you hostage. If Matson Ford is ready to go and they can't go in unless the line is dedicated, then you'll make a decision at that point in time whether or not you want to take dedication. It's not as if 51 Washington can say, well, we're not going to dedicate this to you. It's in all of our agreements. They have to dedicate it to us. They want us to take it early. At some later date, we can say we're ready to take dedication of this, and they have to dedicate it to us. So what I would recommend is you just don't take any action on this tonight. There's no need to vote it down or whatever. They're making a request. You're not obligated to do it. I would just recommend that we move on to the next item.
Fine with me.
Hearing no objections to that advice, and since we're in the middle of my report, I will move on to the next item. And let me just, if you give me a second, I just want to update you on 126B West 8th Avenue. And I got some notes earlier this evening from Nicole, who attended the hearing today. There was a hearing today in front of Judge Lukens regarding Ms. Kelly's complaint against the authority, where she is seeking a little bit over $1,100 in service fees paid between April of 2014 and July of 2020. Nicole was there from our office, and Ed and Shannon were also present, but Ed and Shannon did not have to testify. It really wasn't a hearing so much as Judge Lukens listened to what Ms. Kelly had to say and listened to what we had to say. What Nicole is reporting, and Ed and Shannon can either agree with Nicole or not, that Judge Lukens did not seem to be really buying what Ms. Kelly was saying. And at the end of the hearing, she didn't make a decision. She said she would issue a decision in 5 days, but she told Ms. Kelly, I don't think I'm going to be able to give you the relief that you're requesting, but I'll review everything. You know, we put everything in that we needed to put in. We put in, you know, the documents, our fee schedule, the transaction history, a request for the waiver of the fees, the minutes reflecting our decision back in 2017, and all of that. So we'll wait for a decision, but it seems as if Judge Lukens was not really buying what Ms. Kelly had to say. So there's nothing for you to do. And then the last thing is, we sent you over some documents in the last several days regarding the easements that we have attempted to acquire on a couple of the different properties, the East 9th Avenue and the Colwell Lane easements. In each instance, there are 3 properties where individuals have either never responded or we've had no communication from them. The appraisal amounts range from $400 up to $14,000. Although on the East 9th Avenue, they're $250, $400, and $850. On Colwell Lane, it's $2,300, $14,200, and $10,600. As you're aware, normally when we're trying to obtain easements, it's before we're putting our pipes in the ground. Our pipes are already there. So there has not been the same sort of sense of urgency of getting this resolved, although it probably is in the authority's best interest to get this resolved. I think the hope of having anyone respond is probably somewhat limited at this point in time. If we've gone this long without them responding, it's probably unlikely they're going to respond. So, as I said, on the one hand, our pipes are already there, so there's not the same sense of urgency. But at some point, we may need to access this pipe, and we may run into somebody saying, "Well, you don't have an easement, you can't get onto our property, so it's probably better that we do something about it." The only step that would be appropriate at this point in time, again, we can continue to send letters, but I think we'll be sending letters until forever. I don't think they're going to be doing anything. So if the authority wants to contemplate condemning these easements, I will tell you that my experience has been that once that declaration of taking document shows up in your mailbox, that you sometimes tend to think, okay, I guess this is getting real. Now I got to go out and hire a lawyer. Now I got to go out and answer this complaint. Then I see it happen so often. The people end up signing shortly thereafter. But that's your option right now. We either do nothing, continue to send letters, or we move forward with potentially condemning the property.
So, Mike, I have a question. I
Sure.
did recognize one of the names on the list, so I called Terry today and gave him contact information. Evidently, the owner is Stokely. He rented the house out and he never got any of the letters.
Okay.
So that might be the issue we're having with some of them. But
It could be. Yep.
And can we just call them on the phone, the people, if we have their addresses? Look that up.
You certainly can. And what I would recommend is that even if the board wants to move forward with condemning, that we not authorize that tonight. We set that up for our May meeting. In the interim, we can call people if we know anybody on the list. We can send another letter saying, just so you know, at the May meeting, the board is going to contemplate condemning your property. If you want to resolve this matter, please let us know. So, yeah.
Well, and Mike, I guess I would add to that a little bit. I mean, the Postal Service has not been great, and that's probably putting it mildly. I think Jane's idea of maybe reaching out and giving these people a call is a good one. I also think, I'm also not opposed to sending another letter kind of saying we're contemplating, this is kind of the next step here. But I would almost say, could we send it UPS or some way that we can track it and know that they received delivery? Because, there's just quite a bit of mail that isn't getting there. And I would hate to see someone, get notice of condemnation of their property when we could have spent $4 on a UPS.
Right. Well, I will. I'm a big defender of the U.S. Postal Service, but I won't disagree with you right now. But I
normally am too. But
I do believe that every one of these, maybe Mr. Stokely is the exception, but we have sent so much correspondence over the year. But I agree that if we want to send it UPS or FedEx or something else along those lines to make sure it's delivered, or if we want to just spend a couple of bucks and get we're not filing the legal action yet, but if we want to just have somebody go down there and paste it on the door or tape it to the door or shove it under the door or in the mail slot, we can do that as well. So,
I mean, again, Janine, this is just as a wake-up call because, I mean, historically, I don't remember. We've had to do this previously just because people have ignored it. But I agree with Jane's comment that perhaps Shannon can give folks a call and see what happens with that. And I would agree with what Mike suggested as well.
We can, guys said, we can send another letter.
And 2020 has just been, we'll be saying it for decades, 2020. So.
When did we start this process, Mike?
Oh my, this is a couple of 3 years ago, at least. Maybe even longer than that.
It's been longer.
Yeah, it probably has been. Yeah, the East 9th Avenue
5
project
years.
is probably 5 years ago. Yeah.
So that's why kind of the taping on the door will get folks' attention and hopefully get to the right homeowner.
I think at one point we did have hand-delivered letters to each of the properties. I think our staff did that. Yeah, I think that we need to put closure to this. And the other question was that I had asked previously, how long this has been going on, but the cost associated with it and how much money has been spent on this whole process. So I didn't see that in the report, but I still want to ask the question: is what's our total cost that we're putting out on this for all these years? I mean, when do we say enough? We can write as many attorney letters as we want, but every time we do, it's another cost to the budget.
No, I mean, I think we, I guess, Felix, to your point, it's been as long as it's been. We gotta stop the bleeding at a certain point, and I think we do then possibly consider the condemnation at our May meeting and make these efforts in the next month to give everybody one last bite at the apple, one last opportunity, and then
I mean, that is the point. We've in some ways, we've been too gracious in not sending out these condemnation letters previously. And historically, we've tried to, again, be considerate of what folks are going through. But I think Mike gave good advice this evening. It's up for the rest of the board.
So again, I just think it's important, other than Mr. Stokely, who says he hasn't gotten any of this, and so that one maybe we can knock off. I'm pretty sure all of these people have gotten it and just chose to ignore it. And I just got done with a stormwater road project in Abington where we had 212 easements that we had to get. And most everybody, like 80% of everyone, signed them and returned them within weeks, if not months. But there were always, there were 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 holdouts, and it wasn't until they were served by the sheriff with the notice of condemnation, and they're calling my office. Oh, I had no idea I had to do this, and we said, yeah, but you've gotten 14 letters over the last 6 months. So, but I think we can continue to make one last ditch effort to get them to before we make some moves on it.
Sounds good to me.
And we'll get that all. We'll start getting that together for next month. We'll work with Terry and Shannon to get one more notice out to everybody. And I think that concludes my report.
All right.
Looks like Andrew Miller is an attorney over in Bryn Mawr. Why don't we call his office? Yep. You know him, Mike?
Yeah, I think he's gotten notice after notice after notice, and I think there has been contact with him. So
Did you call him up?
I think someone may have spoken to him at one point in time. Yeah.
I mean, this just seems ridiculous. I don't know why it stretched on so long. But let's put this to bed.
That concludes my report.
All right. Do I hear a
Make a
motion to
motion.
accept?
I make
Go,
a
go,
motion
go.
to accept, just trying to be efficient. I make a motion to accept the solicitor's report.
I will second that motion. Oh, sorry, Jane. I'm being efficient too.
Jane Flanagan,
Yes.
Felix Ramunda,
Yes.
Kyle Elliott,
Yes.
Carol Smith,
Yes.
Janine Riley.
Yes. Okay, motion passes. Moving on to the engineer's report.
Janine, I'm sorry, Fred.
I was going to ask Terry if you want.
Yeah.
Do you want to jump ahead? Because Terry has to go get a second shot.
Yeah, I apologize. I tried to get it rescheduled, but that was next to impossible. So I have a 7:30 appointment. I can't be
Oh.
late, but
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought it was okay.
and I'm sorry for line jumping here. I truly do apologize. Two very quick items in addition to the connection fee report. Mike Fonditz, and I think many of you know Mike. Mike has been with us for 10 years, just announced his retirement effective June the 10th. Now, Mike is what I would describe as a skilled, licensed operator. I believe he has his Class B license, something we certainly do very much need sooner rather than later. And I just want to let the board first know about this personnel matter and that Ed and I will start immediately to look for a replacement and we'll keep you posted on that. If you have any questions about that. We wish Mike all the best. We congratulated him.
Yeah, Terry, I just wanted to, I know this is something that we've discussed, and again, this is also something that may be helpful at the PMAA meeting. We discussed this even before Stephen left, at the fact that we need to try to create a link to get some people into the plant since some of our workers are older. And I know, again, COVID kind of took the steam off of a lot of our initiatives that we had already planned for in 2019. And that was one of them, to work with some of the community colleges that I believe that you may already be in touch with their programs. And that was some of the networking also that we were trying to encourage Stephen to do, to gain those alliances so we could, hear about the personnel tracks. And again, Terry, you've been in the industry for years, so you probably have a lot of those connections already, but it's something we were aware of. And, not just for Mike, but for some of the other personnel members as well.
Now, you're quite right, Carol. There's a number of folks that are getting up there. So we have to keep an eye on that. So any questions about that? We'll move very quickly and we'll keep you posted as to our progress. And the second item, you recall at your last meeting, you approved our applying for a time extension for our small water and sewer grant. We have received approval for that, and we've also received what they call, DCED refers to as the first amendment to this particular grant. So this evening, I ask that the board approve this amendment. This is the amendment to the original agreement. That's why I'm asking that you approve this amendment.
Make a
We
motion
need
that
a
we
motion. Yep.
approve the amendment.
Yes, please.
And that,
We have, Terry, to spend the money on the extension.
Excuse me?
How long do we have to spend the money on the extension?
A year. Oh,
A year.
it's to June 30th, 2022. A little bit more than a year. But according to Fred, the project should be completed before that, which actually brings up a point. We were looking, did we secure the easements for this project, folks? I don't know who's working on that. And then there is an either easement or license agreement with SEPTA. Fred, do you know?
Yeah,
anything?
the legal descriptions and plot plans were just completed, and Lauren's working with SEPTA on the license agreement. So it's a multi-step process. They had to review the plot plans. They agreed with them. We prepared the legal descriptions. Lauren has them, and now Lauren's working ahead on the license agreement, which is the last step. Well, excuse me. Once we obtain that, we can publicly bid. Bid documents are ready to go out the door.
Okay.
And this will allow us to do phases 2 and 3. So there's actually 2 outstanding grants. Both of them will now expire on June 30th, 2022. So we have to get this one extended, but we'll probably bid them both out at the same time, possibly at the same time as separate contracts. They have to remain separate contracts because the total cost of the project has to be under $500,000 to be eligible for the grant. So I can't combine them.
Okay, good.
Okay, we'll do roll call. Jane Flanagan,
Yes.
Felix Ramundo,
Yes.
Kyle Elliott,
Yes.
Carol Smith,
yes,
Janine Riley.
So yes. All right, motion passes.
Okay,
Um,
folks, that concludes my report. Before I sign off and go get, does anyone have any questions of me for anything going on?
I had a question quickly, Terry. How close are we to our 1,500-day safeties?
I think we're,
I thought Ed was gonna, yeah.
2 days.
Yeah.
Wow.
So you already have something planned to talk about. Sorry, I wasn't trying to steal thunder, but I was just,
I was
I've been
thinking it too, Carol. I was sitting on my hands.
Sorry, I've been anticipating it, that's all, so thanks.
All right, do I hear a motion to accept the interim executive director's report? And Terry, good luck.
Make
thank
that
that-
motion.
I'll
you.
make that motion.
I'll second it.
Jane Flanagan,
Yes.
Felix Ramundo,
Yes.
Kyle Elliott,
Yes.
Carol Smith,
Yes,
Janine Riley.
Also yes. And the motion carries.
Okay, thank you all very much. Good night, and I'll catch up with you soon.
All right, Terry.
Terry, thank
You're
you.
welcome. All right, moving back to move forward. Fred, you're up.
Absolutely. First item is update on the sludge press. The pilot test is scheduled to start next week, May 4th. This is the second technology and the second test that we'll be performing. So we'll be interested to see how this compares to the first one. We did have a third equipment vendor reach out to us, PW Technologies. I would recommend that we also do a pilot test of their equipment. One of my other authorities selected them, and we're under design utilizing their equipment. They performed far better than the others on the sludge at that treatment plant. Sludge is totally different at every treatment plant. That's why you do these pilot tests. This would basically provide us with 3 pilot tests to allow us to make an informed decision and decide on the basis of the design. I wouldn't go more than 3 because, quite honestly, you got the big 3 out there right now. There's other ones out there, but I can tell you I don't think I would ever recommend them. They've had a lot of mechanical issues. Great concept, but just not refined yet. So we will provide you guys with an update of, we probably won't have results back other than, the initial, solids concentration, but it takes a while to get all the lab results back from them. So that'll probably happen in June, but if we could also maybe arrange for the other firm is called PW Technology or PW Tech, if we could maybe arrange to get them out during maybe the month of June to get this done. So that way, moving into the fall, we can make a decision and get a design going. So that way we can get this project bid once we have a agreement on the capital budget with Plymouth Township. I did meet with Terry and Ed to discuss the capital budget and the approach to Plymouth Township, which I believe that they will be doing some point in the very near future. Just would be good to get that resolved so that we can move ahead with our capital projects, before we miss another year. We lost last year without doing anything. And we've actually, that kind of leads me into, we are having some settling issues with actually, is there any question on the sludge process, updating the pilot test? And is the board in favor of making arrangements to have the third pilot test done? That way we'll have the three main technologies utilized to make it informed. And that way we can compare all of their reports and say, listen, this is what the science says.
Terry, I
It will be
think
the most
that's
efficient.
fine, and actually, that's the same approach we had towards the odor treatment plant. I think we had, and I think the odor treatment condition was a little bit different because that technology was even more scarce than this technology. I believe we had a pool of vendors that was even fewer than the pool that appears now. And I think at that time, we trusted your judgment as to what the three, I think, did we only have two that came in for odor control? I remember we screened them through your advice and talking with our, other associates. I do think it's appropriate to bring in the third vendor, especially since you've heard about successful use of the equipment at other facilities.
Good.
I agree. I think it makes sense to go for the third.
Yeah, and we have the time. Good. So super. That will take me to the next thing as far as Ed and I was out to help Ed, and I hadn't been out to treatment plant for a long time due to COVID. We were having some settling issues with the digester, which is not uncommon when you go, spring into, winter into spring, when you have the temperatures, it gets it upset. And basically, so we made the recommendation to increase the decanting of the digester. You basically have to run around, because what's happening right now is it's not settling. So you have a less concentrated sludge going into the belt filter press. As a result of that, they use slightly more polymer to go through. Because it's wet, the polymer runs through the press, goes back to the head of the plant, and then it upsets our RBCs, because polymer is glue. So that glue hits the biology on the RBCs, flakes off in bigger particles, comes in and affects our final clarifier. One of the things that I observed when I was out there was we normally have, when sludge and other items float in our clarifier, it's dime size to $half size particles. Now it was, an oblong, 8-inch oblong, 6 to 8 inches oblong, like a, bigger than a soda can, wider than a soda can, which is not normal. Normally they're small, quarter size things. So I think it's both. It's not uncommon to happen during this time of the year, but it's something that we have to get through. So we just did that last Monday. And I told her we basically have to wait 2 weeks for anything to react right now, especially now because we've had some yo-yo temperatures. It got cold last week. Now it's going to be 80 degrees tomorrow. So you kind of have to leave the temperature stabilized, and you don't want to change too many variables. But I'll be back out again next week to really see how it changed, where it's going. But the concern really is, it's not a concern, but it's a negative for us, is that the sludge is coming off the press very, very wet. Normally it piles up and it almost looks like a dry, dirt. Like this is wet, and if you leave it go, it basically is like water. It goes from a volcano or, a mound and just flattens out. What I mean? And normally it looks like, kind of normal dirt. And this, it's a black, slut, better term for it, but it's a black, it looks more liquid, clearly. There's a shine to it and it just slumps away, so, not unexpected, but something we want to get ahead of. And especially because of the wet and inefficiency of it, it just feeds on itself. More polymer goes back around, flakes off the RBCs, just goes in a vicious circle. But
And
I did also.
don't the costs increase a bit on our carry-away, right?
Oh, absolutely it will.
Yeah, so that's my big concern.
Yeah, you're paying for water to be hauled away and not solids. So I mean, you're probably losing 20% efficiency on it. Now, a lot of our cost is hauling, not just the wet weight, but clearly we'll have, there'll be a lot, it's more concentrated. Water weighs more than dry dirt, and that's the whole purpose of it. And that's the inefficiencies of a belt filler press. There's not much you can do in these situations. Whereas the other one, a centrifugal press, you have a lot more adjustability for it. So we are working on that, and we'll see that. What I'm going to be really interested to see is, well, I'm still kind of hoping we have this problem, because I want to compare this bad or this tough sludge with the new technology, to see how does that compare to our belt filler press. We can compare apples to apples right there. Which one's better?
I have a question, Fred. I mean, I'm just curious, is the same type of polymer used with the centrifuge as used with the belt filter press? Because it's a different technology, and are there different costs associated with the polymers? Because I know, you use different polymers for different conditions. I was just wondering if a different one was used with the centrifuge. It's a different technology. They might use a different polymer. I was just curious.
They do, and at least the last manufacturer. Now, I haven't talked to this manufacturer. They actually brought out various polymers and did different dosing rates with different concentrations, as well as different polymers. So they actually, because they understand that everyone's sludge is different. It's not just the technology that impacts it. It's the type of sludge that you have coming off. Now, unfortunately for this manufacturer, is that when they came out and they took samples of our sludge, and then they basically probably did jar tests to determine which polymer they think is going to be the best. So that way, they got the best shot of it. So they took samples 3-4 weeks ago, Ed. Unfortunately, I think our sludge has gotten a little less, dense, and isn't settling as well. So if these guys are close, I may allow them, some latitude and take this into account when I'm doing my evaluation. But, and what that's the reason I want to compare this to the belt filter press. So that way I can say, well, listen, these guys were significantly better than my belt filter press, or significantly worse. And then I can compare that when the next guy comes in as well. So, I mean, I don't think the belt filter, I will be interested to see. So I'm not going to form a conclusion yet, but it's definitely a question in the back of my mind is, will the condition of our sludge today impact the results of that pilot test? And I don't know, and I'm going to be asking them as well as my own observations. You really don't know, it may actually help them, just because of the type of technology it is, that's a little bit thinner. But that's definitely something that we're going to have to deal with. It is there. Next item is an update on Freebie Square. We are still waiting for the 3 bids back, but as you remember, we re-televised it and we changed the scope of it. We were concerned that we may be over the public bid amount. I can confirm to you that we will definitely be significantly
I'm sorry, I'm frozen
below
for whatever reason.
Am I unfrozen? Can anybody hear me?
You're fine.
Okay. I don't think Janine can hear me though. Maybe it's Janine's screen.
Janine, you're not frozen on the screen, at least, Janine.
Yeah, but she can't hear us.
Sorry, everybody can hear me. I'm frozen for whatever reason. Yeah, I'm
Janine,
frozen.
we can
I'm
hear
sorry.
you.
It's everything. Everybody's
Oh, she can't see us. Doesn't matter if we're frozen on her screen.
Sorry, everybody. Wait, Carol's coming back. Okay. Okay.
Can you hear us now, Janine?
You were the first one back, Carol. You were the first one back. Now I'm sorry. I don't know what in God's name happened. Yeah, now I can hear it. Like everybody was just in that weird circle thing.
Yeah, the
sorry.
bad part is we can hear you the whole time.
Yeah. Well,
So,
thankfully I didn't curse or anything.
yeah. Important to remember for when that happens today.
Well, that's I'm like I don't know what's going on. Okay. Well, I'm sorry.
So, Freely Square. This is where we're replacing the sags across the parking lot. As you remember, last month we retelevised it and wanted to and better identify the scope because we thought we might be up against the public bidding amount and we may have to go out for public bids. Well, we've gone out and requested 3 written quotes, and we've received 1 so far. I can tell you that under the new scope, we are significantly underneath the bid amount, and we reduced the cost of the project from probably mid 20 to 25,000 to probably 12 to 13,000. So we cut the costs in half, and we're waiting for the other 2 bids to come back. So I just asked the guy for a range. I did not open his bid because I don't want to see it until I see all 3 of them. But I just said, am I safe under the bid? Am I under 15? He's like, yeah. So I said, that's all I need to know. I won't ask any more. So we'll have them ready for award at the May meeting. Odor control replacement media. The contractor this is to replace the odor control media. Contractor was out and performed tests on the existing media. They need to do that so they can make arrangements for where they dispose of it. So they originally wanted to come out and replace the media next week of May 4th. We asked them to postpone another week and a half because we're going to have the pilot test down there. And with the pilot test and having a pilot test tractor trailer there and someone else trying to upload media, it's just not going to be good. There's no reason to do that. So we asked them, and they graciously did that. So that is actually all my items because Terry covered the other 2 items that I had, which was on the liner as well as 51 Washington. So that completes my report, unless the board has any questions for me.
I have a question in regards to 51. I know 51 Washington. I know last month we talked extensively about the sanitary sewer main that someone was discharging into our manhole. A status update on what actions were taken and what any findings of it.
I mean, Ed, I can let you run with, I guess, the majority of this, or if you want, I mean, what I know, Felix, or Ed, do you want to run with it, and then I'll fill in if there's anything else? Why don't we do that? Let's do it that way.
Sure. Basically, what it is we're not in any position to prove what happened. And that's where we're at right now. We just don't have, I don't feel that we have enough evidence to point that finger.
And what made you change your mind on that, Ed?
Excuse me?
What made you change your mind on that?
Well, it's just that looking at the video, I can look at it and say, okay, it looks like somebody did something. With multiple people upstream from that line, who did what? When did they do it? How long did they do it? So it's kind of really hard to really pin that down.
Did you call the borough?
Yes, actually, Terry had requested that the borough engineer or inspector went out to site just to kind of review things and look at their site plan for stormwater. And from what they reported back, everything was in order.
Yeah, I think we will be actually, Ed, correct me if I'm wrong, I think we'll be getting a written report soon, but Stephanie had, spoken verbally actually to both Terry and I and said that the report would essentially say that everything was as it should be. But we should be getting something in writing to confirm that whenever they get to it.
Yes, that's
Were
what
the
Terry
police
told
called?
me. Not at this point, not that I
Did you
believe.
not file a report with the police?
No, we did not.
One thing that I can say is that we will be changing our procedures moving forward such that there will be 2 plugs in everything. And also on this one, that we are going to request, and I don't know that I can force it, but I think I have a very valid argument, that they not only flush their sanitary sewer lines, but the next 4 or 5 downstream. Because there's stains on the side of the sanitary sewer main, we have reason to believe that debris was flushed down. We don't know whose it was, but either way, we'll make sure that that main is totally cleared prior to us accepting dedication, allowing flows to go down through, as well as the downstream in case anything did go there. And all new sanitary sewer main extensions will have plugs placed in them until they are determined to be substantially complete and ready for connection. Now, basically, once they connect to the building, I have to pull the plug, and then at that point, we should be charging them for sewer rental fee. But up until then, the concern is when you just have sanitary sewer mains out there, that, you know, construction debris is getting in there, someone pumps in an elevator shaft, whatever it could be. So, you know, this conversation was very helpful in making sure that something does not happen again in the future.
Well, I was under the understanding that we asked you to contact the chief of police just to make him aware of the situation, if he could add anything to it. Through with.
I'm not sure if the chief was involved. I know Stephanie and I believe Ray Sokolowski, they were both informed, as far as I know.
Yeah, that was part of it, and also was the police. So, just curious why that wasn't carried through after the board asked you to do that.
I think Terry honestly was cautious and wanted to proceed with the borough first. I mean, I know he was going to comment on this, and unfortunately he had to go for his appointment, but I do know he was prepared to speak on this, so we can certainly ask him to follow up. But I think it was moving forward with the borough, and then seeing what their position was. They had told, I guess, us that they'd done regular checks and went out, Ed, I believe, and did like a special kind of inspection again at our request.
Correct.
And that's, I think, at that point, being that everything was kind of as it should be, there was, I guess, the decision not really to move forward. And
so Terry decided not to follow what we asked him to do.
Jane, maybe you can confirm this, but my guess is when Stephanie was contacted, she has a fairly close relationship with the captain of the police force. Can you just check to see if he was notified about it? Because I know they talk to each other on a more casual basis, and my guess is this was mentioned. We did ask to have this done, but we don't know what happened after the meeting. So if you could find out, I think that would be appropriate.
Well, it appears a police report was not filed, which is, different than having a casual conversation. I'm just curious why,
Well, I guess that's what I'm saying.
Perhaps,
I guess that's what I'm saying is perhaps Stephanie had talked to him and they discussed this and came up with I'm just asking for more information.
Right.
We did request this at the last meeting. I concur. So it would be good to find out exactly what the chain,
it's simple as
what
that.
happened. So, do you know what I'm saying here, Jane? Perhaps
I'll
Stephanie
check with
talked to
Stephanie and Ray, and I think because it was after the fact, there was no evidence there, so possibly that's why it just couldn't even be followed up on. But I'll check with Stephanie and Ray and find out if they talked to Chief Metz.
Thank you.
Again, it was to file a report with the police. It wasn't to have a conversation with Stephanie, although that was part of it. It was also requested to file a report with the police. Terry can update us on why he chose not to do that.
But Ed, as you said, you don't really have any evidence to prove that anyone did anything, correct?
At this point, yes, that's correct.
No, I think the evidence shows that they can't see where it came from, but somebody dumped something down there.
Okay.
Which statement is correct? Nothing happened or something happened?
We believe
Well,
something.
he has no evidence that can prove someone did, a specific person did something. So,
That's not, did something get flushed down our sewer line?
We have reason to believe it was stormwater.
Stormwater. Okay,
Yes.
all right.
No chemicals or anything like that. It was, that's what we believe.
All right.
Any other questions on the engineer's report? Hearing none, would anyone like to make a motion to accept the engineering report?
I'll make that
Aye.
motion, accept the engineer's report.
I will second that motion.
Shannon, you're up.
Jane Flanagan. Felix Raimondo.
Yes.
Kyle Elliott.
Yes.
Carol Smith.
Yes.
Janine Riley.
Also yes. All right, motion carries. Mike, you like how I'm incorporating that now? I'm learning my role a little bit better. All right, on to operation manager's report. Ed,
Right.
I like that more frequently.
I'm sure you remember back in June of 2019, the PUC issued a $500 fine for an alleged violation, stating that we did not respond properly to a PA1 call. That's still going. I've been going back and forth with them. We were able to find proof of our response, so they're going to actually let us speak about it at their upcoming meeting on May 11th. So I'm going to, this is, I don't know if you remember, this is a situation where we did mark our sewer line, but what happened was a contractor for the phone company hit a line owned by the gas company. Had nothing to do with sewer whatsoever. So we're just trying to clarify that and see if we can get that taken care of. I believe the borough got the same fine for the same ticket as well. So I will report back on that next month. I want to report that Elk Environmental has came in and removed all the lab chemicals that we no longer use. So they're gone, they're off site. Glad to have them gone. I know we're reporting for a while. We're waiting for parts to come in for our spiral screen. That's a big piece of the plant that removes all the rags and solids, or not solids, but just like any kind of floating debris. The shoes for the brushes came in 2 Fridays ago, and they were installed last week, so that's back in service. I sent out the itinerary for the 2021 intern, so that we're getting ready to have that posted. That should be posted this weekend, so we can get that going. Also, the summer schedule for our workers at the plant, as per the contract, we spoke with the union rep and we came up with a schedule that works. And as you recall, there was no problems last year. It went pretty smoothly. So we're going to start that this Friday. The reason we're starting on a Friday is because of the way the pay periods are. And, I believe that's it.
All right. Oh. So any update on our 1,500 days or?
Oh, yes. I'm glad you reminded me. Thursday is day 1,500. So what I'm working on is like a small plaque just to display in the conference room just for the plant, which I'm not going to order till Thursday, of course. But I was hoping to send something around to the board by the end of the week as maybe some options for some small gifts for the crew. So, and if anybody has any ideas, just try not to do anything that's been done before. Just trying to think of something appreciative.
Well, it's a big deal in my book because, again, I have worked at many plants in my career, and I don't remember plants, small or big, ever making 1,500. So it is a big deal. So I think it is something that we should consider to give the folks at the plant.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. They
Especially
should get
since-
some token of
especially-
appreciation.
Since it is a dangerous, there are dangers incurred here, and
Right.
I mean, it's a good,
And it's
a good
24-hour
milestone.
operation. It's a 24-hour
Exactly.
That's a good
7
point.
day a week, 24 hours a day.
Right. And I spoke to Stephanie and the rest of council, so we'll do a proclamation. And unfortunately with Zoom, presenting it to people is not much fun, but maybe we can somehow arrange to do some sort of presentation at the plant and make notice of it. So.
Thank you, Jane.
No, you're welcome.
I'm still
And
planning
I-
on going to the plant tomorrow and pushing it down, just so everybody knows.
And then our plaque will say 1,499 days.
Now I know to lock my office door.
Okay, you see me coming, Ed, running the other direction, but people do that anyway. So
Lock the gate. All right. Any questions on the operation manager's report?
Ed, I had a question on where you're advertising for the summer internship. Do you have
We're
any
doing-
specific?
Oh, I'm sorry. Normally what we do is the Times Herald package. We do that, and I want to send something out to the community college.
What about our vocational technical institute up in with the
Central
Colonial
Norco.
with the Colonial School District?
That's a great idea. I could add them to the list as well.
Is there a minimum age, Ed, that the children?
They have to be 18 the day of the first day that they start.
Okay, that might be an issue, Felix, for the high school students, but not the graduates. They don't have a specific plumbing program anymore. They have construction trades where students do, I believe, 3 months of each their first year, and then they get to decide what they want to major in their subsequent years.
And they have construction technology.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just thinking that would, maybe a recent
Right.
graduate or
Right.
somebody that is, going off to college before, or they have a lot of networking within even
do.
with graduates. So
They do.
I could certainly just send something over that's specific that they have to be 18 as of a certain date.
I'll forward
Right.
you Seth's number, and then you give him a call.
Oh, great.
I talked to Seth today. I worked there for 10 years, so I'm on their board.
You're on the advisory board?
No, I'm on the foundation board to help them raise
foundation.
money for special programs for the students, to pay for trips and different opportunities that will come up for things that are outside the school budget.
Yeah, Seth is excellent.
Yeah, he's a great.
And the other question I had was, how's our vaccination rate going for the guys that are working at the plant?
I'm afraid to ask anybody that. I think it's probably just below 50%.
I don't think we have a legal right to ask that at this point.
That's what I'm afraid of, Des.
The only legal right we
That's- I
have
was-
is if
I was
conditions
curious
the
on
way
that.
we want. Yeah, I'm curious too, but Mike, we don't have a legal right to ask that, do we?
Well, no, I know Rutgers is not allowing students to come back until they get vaccinated. So I think see what our legal counsel has to say.
we are advising that you can ask, but making it clear that they don't, they're not required to tell you.
Can
Could we do
can we?
an program that if they come in with proof of vaccination, we give them a $50 gift card to a restaurant or something, or no?
We had
No,
talked
I
about
think
that
I don't think we
before,
can incentivize.
Yeah,
Yeah, we had
Okay.
talked about that previously, that it wasn't a good idea. Again, I
Okay.
think we can ask, but legally, I don't know what's on the PMAA website. They just had a COVID thing, Ed. I don't know if you attended that. I did not attend.
I didn't get to that one either.
You may want to reach out to them what other authorities are and what the state law is, but by law, I don't believe we can't legally require it at this point. College is a different beast. They're state university, they have their own rules.
Can we make it a requirement to work at our place if you to be vaccinated to work at our facility?
I don't think
I
the union
don't
will
believe
allow
you can
that.
do that.
not even the union will allow it. You can't do that. We'll I know we've been discussing this with Terry. I apologize that I cannot recall whether or not we put anything in writing for Terry, but we'll get something together for everybody kind of explaining what we can and can't do. So
Can we
Hey, it's frustrating.
provide?
I see people not wearing masks just out in public. So, you know, the thing we can do again is enforce our protocols, which are, you know, the CDC protocols.
I know some companies are offering vaccinations to their employees. Is that something we can do? Is the borough doing that?
I think that the borough did it early on. I think that because of their line of work, like all the public service work guys got them.
My other authorities are allowing them to go get the vaccination during work hours, so they don't have to schedule it after hours. And right now, you can go to Bucks County and you can literally sign up, and within 3 days, you can get your appointment.
That's a great idea, Fred.
Right, Fred. That's what I was saying is either we bring somebody on site that offers a vaccination or we give them a setup link. They schedule, they do it during working hours. And that way that they're not missing time and they get paid for it. And we actually give them we give them a day off. Go get your vaccination. We'll see you later. Come back tomorrow. And then if you get the second vaccination or any of the vaccinations and you're not feeling well, we usually give them a free day, a vacation day, just as a sign. Because there are some people do get side effects. And instead of taking a personal day, you know, we're not going to charge them for that if it's following a vaccination. I just thrown that out there. I know there's some ideas that I'm seeing. And there is talk about certain facilities that I work at that if you're not vaccinated, they have not implemented this yet, but I don't think it won't be, it'll be very soon that they start implementing this, that if you're not vaccinated, you're not going to be allowed to work on site. So I see that coming sooner than later. And I think that we should at least offer our guys to do it during working hours.
I think that's a great idea. Again, legally, we can't require them to get vaccinated. And, you know, again, I know Lauren's been keeping up with what's been going on with the union and their legal requirements concerning the COVID situation. But I do agree that, curious what the rest of the board thinks. I think if, especially now since vaccinations have opened up, because previously we had discussed a few months ago about bringing in people, and we knew that the borough did it, but at that time there wasn't the number of vaccinations or the availability. Now that the availability is so increased, I agree with Felix that would be a good idea. If they get vaccinated, they can take the day off. I got my first vaccination shot and I was pleased that there were no side effects. So.
yeah, we'll get something together for everybody. Let you know what we can and cannot do, and then we can start making some decisions based on that.
Thanks, Mike. That'll be good. All right, I think we're still on the operation manager's report. Any additional questions, or are we ready to make a motion to accept that?
I'll make a motion to accept the operation manager's report.
I'll second.
Jean Flanagan,
Yes.
Felix Ramundo,
Yes.
Kyle Elliott,
Yes.
Carol Smith,
Yes.
Janine Riley.
Also, yes. Motion carries. And finally, last but not least, the ever exciting collections and maintenance report. Will wonders never cease? Do we have anything to talk about here?
The only thing I would mention is that the PA1s went down considerably from the last 2 months at 106. So I think we're at like 250 a month for a while. And up till then, we usually average around 75. So we're getting closer back to normal. So that's good. Another thing you're going to see on the maintenance reports with the weather changing is you're going to see more lawn maintenance and shrubbery being done, mulching. The guys have been doing a lot of that lately, so keeping the plant looking nice. Also, since I started these every Monday morning meetings with Vinny, Mike, John, and myself, we go around the table and we have a running list of everything that's outstanding. And every Monday morning, I'll print out an updated one. And then we'll go and cross everything out. Then after that meeting, I'll send it out to everybody. I include Terry on that also. So we're seeing a lot more maintenance issues getting done, and some of the smaller things usually fall through the cracks. So that's really been very helpful.
Yeah, Ed, I'd just like to congratulate that on initiating those meetings and keeping track of them. Terry had told me about that when I had called him about something. I know when I worked at Merck, when I was an investigator at Merck, that we would have something called a muster meeting, especially before FDA inspections and that sort of thing. But we had daily muster meetings to go over what's the plan, and that's similar to what you're doing. So I just want to congratulate you on that. That's a really good tool to use.
Thank you.
Agreed.
Yes.
And that's all I have on those two reports.
Okay. Any other questions? We ready to accept it?
Are we
All
waiting
right.
for a motion?
Motion,
Janine?
yep. Yes,
I'll
I'm
make
sorry.
that motion.
I'll second. Oh, muted Shannon. Ba-dum-bum.
Jane
Yes.
Flanagan,
Oh,
Felix Ramundo,
Yes.
Kyle Elliott,
Yes.
Carol Smith,
Yes.
Janine Riley.
So yes, motion carries. All right. Do I have a motion to close the meeting?
I'll make
I'll
that
make-
motion.
I'm saying we all just want to stick around a little bit longer. All right, Jane made it. Any seconds?
I'll second.
All right, thanks, Carol.
Jane Flanagan,
yes.
Felix Ramundo,
Yes.
Kyle Elliott,
Yes.
Carol Smith,
Yes, and Ed, I have all the checks signed for you.
Great, thank you.
Riley.
Also yes. All right, motion carries. The meeting
There's
is adjourned.
Kyle.
Hi. Back.
I'm glad
Yes.
you got to see you before you signed off.
Yep. All right. Thanks, everyone.
And hope you're doing all right, Kyle.
I am. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Very sorry about your father.
Yeah. Yep.
Yes.
We're hanging in there. So everyone's doing well.
Well, that's
So,
good to hear.
Yep. All right, guys. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
All right.
Right.
Care.
Good
Bye-bye.
night.
Bye.